What is up guys, Taiki here, and today I want to make a quick video to discuss the Bastion lock drop that's happening in the Aurora ecosystem. So if you like the content, please like and subscribe and leave a comment in the comment section below. None of this is financial advice, and you may need to use a VPN to access the lock drop depending on the jurisdiction you're in. Before I go over where they got the money to begin with and how this actually works, let's just briefly go over what is Bastion and why do I think it's relatively safe. Okay, so like I said, you need to use a VPN depending on the jurisdiction you're in to access the lock drop. But the Bastion, the main application, there is no jurisdiction, restriction. But Bastion is a fork of Compound, right? And I think they changed some code to offer isolated realms, which I'll go over later. But, it's a fork of Compound, and today they announced that they raised some money from prominent VCs in the space, including the founder of Near, Ilya, Xerox Maki, Darren, and a bunch of these legitimate VCs. So they also received $2 million worth of a DeFi grant from Proximity Labs, which is the incubator, the DeFi incubator for the Near and Aurora ecosystem. And I think Bastion, they raised enough money from these VCs, so they're like, okay, we received this grant, let's just give this away to the community to lock up more TVL and compete with the other compound fork, which is Origami, with also decent TVL. So let's go over how the lock drop works. How is the $2 million of Near going to be distributed, and they're also going to be distributing 8% of the supply for their own token. So essentially, it's similar to the lock drop for Mars and Astroport that happened in the Terra ecosystem, where you just have to lock some of your tokens for a predetermined period of time. So you can choose 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, or 12 months. And obviously, the longer you lock up, the more boost you get. And the boost only applies to the Bastion tokens, right? And the Near tokens that's going to be distributed, it's only going to affect I guess it depends on how much TVL this thing occurs. So let's say for the simplicity, for sake of simplicity, there's at the end of the lock drop, which is going to be roughly in 22 hours, it's going to have roughly $100 million in TVL for the lock drop. And let's say I'm a whale and I deposit $1 million, right? And that's the cutoff date, and I only lock it up for a month. And then what happens is that, okay, 1 million is 1% of 100 million, right? So I'm going to receive 1% of the $2 million, right? So by locking up $1 million for a month, I'm going to receive $20,000 worth of Near upfront, right? And upfront, so the tokens you're going to receive after March 24th. It doesn't really say when it's going to be. I think it's going to be so the Bastion and Near rewards will be claimable by users sometimes between March 24th and April 1st. So after a week after the lock drop ends, you're going to be eligible to receive these tokens. And whether you lock it up for 1 month or 12 months, it doesn't really matter, right? What matters is the percent of your TVL that you contributed to the lock drop, if that makes sense. So if if I deposited $1 million for 1 month or $1 million for 12 months, I'm still going to get the same amount of Near, right? It doesn't really matter. So what I'm personally going to do is, or what I'm most likely going to do, is I'm probably gonna wait until the very end to see how much TVL is gonna get. So I have more information. But I'm most likely gonna deposit USDC, Tether, or Near, or ETH. To be honest, I haven't figured out yet. But I mean, it's free money. And I don't think they're gonna rug, right? Because to receive the grant from Proximity, they have to dox, right? The devs have to dox themselves. And if they receive this many investments from VCs, then it gives me more confidence in the ecosystem, right? And they also got some audits there. And this is also, I'll also link this in the description below. This is also a quick graphic of how it's gonna work. You lock up your tokens, and you're gonna be able to claim your tokens a week or sometime after the lock drop ends. And the asset you have to locked is these assets called CETH, CNEAR, CUSDC, or CUSDT. So you're not just locking up these just ETH in general. What you have to do is you have to go to the main hub here, lock one of these tokens, and when you lock your tokens, you're going to get CUSDC in return, right? It's compound USDC. It's an interest-bearing asset. So if I deposit USDC, right, the CUSDC is yielding 1.24% APY, right, which isn't that high, to be honest. But you essentially lock up TVL, or you essentially deposit into the application. Then you lock it for 1 to 12 months. So Bastion, I guess, locks up more TVL, and then they're going to reward you with some Near tokens and some BSTN tokens. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. And they got some good memes too. Yeah, and I think it's kind of cool. They're also going to introduce like leveraged yield farming, right? Through LP tokens on Tri-Solaris. They're going to have isolated pools, so it's going to have more assets as collateral, such as Luna, AVAX, other assets. So I think from a risk reward perspective, I mean, these APYs aren't like sexy, right? I mean, you're going to receive some tokens. It might be like a few $100s within a year. But I think in these markets, I think free airdrops, I guess, free lock drops. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be locking up your tokens, but like I'm never going to be like 100% all in the markets anyway. So, if I lock up some USDC, then, like whatever, I get to, to get some BSTN, get some near. There's probably going to be a liquidity mining program for the BSTN token. I'll probably participate. And, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. So, if you want to bridge to Aura, there are a few bridges. There's the Rainbow Bridge, right? You can bridge from Near or Ethereum, right, to Aurora. You can go from Synapse, right? You can do Synapse. You can do All Bridge too. So one thing I will say is that on Aurora, gas is paid in ETH, right? So you're gonna need ETH to transact. You can't bridge like Near or something. If you used Aurora before, you'll be you can go to this the ETH faucet for Aurora and receive some ETH for doing multiple transactions. But to receive this ETH from the faucet, you're gonna need to have some ETH on Ethereum mainnet, right? Just so they can prevent like bots from like spamming transactions and like earning free ETH. And I think your Aura wallet has to have been active prior to like early February. So depending on when you're watching this, you may not be able to receive this I guess airdrop or this faucet. So if you're coming from different ecosystems, you're gonna have to bridge ETH, right? It's kind of annoying, right? It's pretty annoying. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that, and it's definitely a barrier to entry, but it is what it is. You might be asking like why are they using ETH? Well, what Aura is it's a smart contract built on top of Near, and right now it uses ETH, right? So it's gonna be like a more of a seamless transition, right? If you're coming from ETH mainnet, but what it does is it takes the ETH and converts it into Near in the backend and then uses that for gas. So it does use Near for gas, technically, but from the user perspective, you're using ETH. And in the future, you can use other ERC20s as gas, such as USDC, DAI, Tether. It's not available yet, but that's going to be, I guess, the dream in the future. So, transaction fees are pretty cheap. It's roughly like 1 cent, 2 cents, maybe if it's congested like 5 cents. It's pretty fast. And with the anticipation of the lock drop, with all these money market incentives, you can kind of see like the bridge inflows to Aura have been pretty good, right? I mean, these big green candles. It's kind of misleading because like the USD value is kind of low, right? Just because it's like a really new ecosystem. It's a very immature ecosystem, to be honest. But they're trying to bridge liquidity over by offering these liquidity mining programs. For example, comparing it to Avalanche, right? Like the USD value is much higher. I mean, there's a bunch of red bars recently, but I still think Avalanche is a good ecosystem. But it is what it is. So I'll provide a bunch of the links in the description below. I would anticipate the TVL to go up near the end because there are a bunch of people like me just waiting till the end to figure out whether it's worth it or not. But I think I think it's likely that I'm going to participate just because. I mean, I'm not going to complain about just free Near tokens, despite having to lock up my tokens. Because I'm never gonna not have USDC, for example. So thank you guys for watching and have fun farming out there, and let me know if this is interesting to you. Bye bye.